to this computer and live on Facebook. So we're now going to go over to Facebook, which I haven't quite done yet. Okay, good. So I've started that process and good. Got it. And let me just make sure I'm, what happened? Okay, got it. Got it. Okay, good. All right, good, good, good. And let's edit. And friends, and this should be public. Good, 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 good. So now we're going over to Facebook, and we should be on Facebook Live. Yay, hello. If you're just tuning in, the performance starts at 8:05 p.m. tonight, Eastern Standard Time, a live performance with the real audience sitting right here with me. And we'll be here starting at 8:05, but you can watch us on Zoom or on Facebook Live. And here we are, but we'll start at 8:05 tonight with Romanov. Yay. Okay, so this is just a technical rehearsal, we're just getting set up. So we're going to try a few things. Let's just see. I don't see. Oh, okay. Michael, it looks like you've gone away. So let me just check really quick about making sure everything's okay. Okay. Colin. Great. And now we're going to do this to get us back into, that's good. Okay. So there we go. Okay, good, good, good. And okay, good. All right. Okay, good. There we go. And let's change our name. All right, rename. Done. Good, good, good. Okay. So now we're back on to Zoom and Facebook Live. Good. So we're checking out Facebook Live, and we're on Facebook Live, and we're just going to check this out again. So we're beginning with echo. We're sounding for a weird echo sound. And now we're doing sync. And sync again. And now we're doing the Zoom feature. Just making sure that that works. Good. And now we're doing the loss of screen. And there we go with the loss of screen. Good, good, good. And now we're doing the distance of sound. So I am now leaving the room to test the distance of sound. And distance, distance, distance. Now testing distance of sound. Distance of sound. Oh, trying to distance. Distance of sound, distance of sound. Sound, distance of sound. And now we are back. So, Michael, if we could now check in on chat in Zoom, that'd be great. So, Michael, if you can hear me, we're going to check in on chat on Zoom. See if you could sign back into Zoom. Zoom. Oh, good. So, good. Okay, so did everything sound good, Michael? Quality diminished as before. Oh, that's an old note. Okay, so when I left, did the sound go out? Did it turn off? I mean, you might not know that, but when I went out again, it diminished as before. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Same as before, I could hear you. Yes. Okay, good. Okay, but all the other things were fine on Facebook Live, the clapping and all that stuff. Thank you, boy. Love you. Bye, boy. Big boy. Bumpy. Okay, bye, boy. Yay. Okay, good. So, great. Okay, so, okay. All right. Good, 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 good. Great. So then make sure these are still attached. And if you're seeing us now, we're just getting set up for, whoops, that wasn't what I wanted. We're just getting set up for our performance tonight at 8:05. So tune in at 8:05 for tonight's presentation of Romanov. Romanov, thank you. And right now we're just getting set up. Yay. And she was the British the best news. Okay, let's do it. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, great. So while you do that, I'm going to actually, this is the Chew House. I made this myself, can you believe it? And I'm actually going to do the Chew House, Battle of the Chew House, right? So I'm going to do it right here while you guys give me that glorious music, okay? All right, bye. Yay, the Battle of the Chew House done here live in the middle of New York City. Isn't that exciting? What a great group. Now, the battle was actually fought with muskets. It was actually fought with muskets. And the badger. And General Howe chased them all over. The forward base. Washington was surprised that he would advance at night. But he wanted to make sure that he didn't. So what he did was get off. And then he advanced at night. He advanced. You don't. Okay. Okay, but this was incredibly inefficient, right? Because he was paying the whole. And when the sun finally came up, he was, suddenly he was lost in fog. Uh, so they brought up their cannons because now they were going to cannonade. They were going to launch a cannon attack in the morning, right, against the Chew House. Getting stuck in the wall. Charging. So now I'm going to charge into the room. Oh, that's good. That's good. It was a little, that's good. That's still good. Still good. But I think. Yes, what a good group. And one of the people that charged me was John Lawrence. Now, John Lawrence is famous because he was one of Alexander Hamilton's male lovers. But I was related to Jews. Yay. Well, wasn't it? What? I have some advice. This is very good practical advice. Don't go to the library. Don't read books. It's the most boring. This Bush drama department. They only did shows by straight guys who either drug addicts or alcoholics, right? Sam, right. Why I said yes because he was good. Yes, I was. I called myself Ivan. I called myself. This is the problem. But that's a little short. That's a little hypocritical, right? So you're the Russians. You're the Germans. Right? And you're okay. Da 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 bomb. And so it was like like if you said okay, everybody in this room, right? And World War One casualty. The British lost 2 million. The British lost 1.3 million. The French 2, and the French 2. It was like it was going to the army. Nothing was staying with the people. And so was the Pogues. I think I liked it with music because the communists had a much better song, the International, right? Right? Da 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 bum bum dun da dun 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 dun. German, right? We don't like people with German accents. That's right. It appealed to my sense of history. I was a devil man. She was really into all that orchid stuff. You know, it was like all that darkness and all that shit. And the incense. That's when she. So why was she so fascinated by it? Because she knew that he might be able to help a little boy. By im Grigori Rasputin. So, you know, I hate cultures that don't believe in science, right? I'm so glad that doesn't happen here. There's a faith, and, and there are a lot of explanations for this. There are a lot of explanations for this. One might be there are a lot of explanations for this. So it kept the doctors away, right? And the doctor stressed the little boy out. He couldn't recover because he was so stressed out all the time about, you know, being sick with all these doctors running. Sometimes it works. Okay. This cake is good. Possible. This cake is good. Oh, 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 oh. They did an autopsy on him. They determined that, in fact, he had died of drowning. I'm weird, but it's like a sacrament. The tragedy. No, I can't. He is. He's public. Common sense. Okay, so here's some bit of advice. If you're leave, go to South of France. Go someplace disgusting. Go to LA. Go work at Starbucks now. It's better than being dead. Okay, okay. Yeah, good. You don't want to be Louis XVI. One night, the Bolsheviks came to them. It was late at night, much too late, but they weren't suspicious. They were very trusting. Okay. The order of the regional Soviets, you are to be executed. What? Read that again. It was dark. It was pitch black. Now, a very weird thing happened at this point in the melee. It was complete chaos, complete confusion. And now we're firing at the daughters. They were firing at 11 minutes explode. Now, small arms experts were telling me. Oh, God, oh. They led them in carts out into the fields. The jewels that they get coming, even death. And why so desperate? Because we're all searching for an identity, right? We're all searching for something to be, somewhere to belong. I mean, that's what this place is about, LGBTQ center, right? Princess on the trapped, isolated, in a corner, the whole world. Feelings, right? Because I think he does with the smoke. The smoke was a very weird thing happened. A very strange thing happened because they were shooting at the daughters. And the by order of the Soviet regional. What? Why is it desperate? Then anything, understand, shooting weapons. The whole world. So point your gun to me. And now you guys the daughters were running about. And the room now was suddenly full of smoke. Nothing could be seen. Then a very weird thing happened because it started firing. But the bullets took 11 minutes. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we are, back and set up and ready to go. Good, 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 good. Yeah, yeah. Gra 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 gra. Ha ha yeah yeah. Crack 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 crack. La 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 la. Pa 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 pa. Pa 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 pa. Yeah. Okay, so what's going on with this? Okay. It's not, oh, okay. Okay. Good. Good, good, good. All right. This. And that's good. Good time. Whoops, no, we don't want that. And rename. And done. Closed. Great. Good, good, good. Good, 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 good. Okay, great. Hello! No, I do that every night. How are you? Oh,
Good to see you.
it's good to see you. Look at you. That's all right. Hi. Oh, hi. How's it going? Good to see you. Aw. Just getting set up, gentlemen. There are Reese's over there. Help yourself to Reese's, right? And there's a bathroom down the hall. Thank you for coming, gentlemen. Oh, well, you get something different. All kinds of czars now, right? Except for health czars. We kind of like them, right? Okay, this is good. Oh, good, 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 good. Lovely. So, Yes. Good. Excellent. Hey, thanks for coming. I'm good. How's it going? Good to see you, Crazy. They're Reese's. Help yourself. They're Reese's. Yes. Help yourself to Reese's. We begin at 8:05. FYI. Oh, sure. Yes. Yes, very hybrid. Very high and very bred. It's yeah, that's where we are right now, right? Two. Okay, great. Okay. Good. Lovely. Mhm. 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 Welcome everybody to, thank you, yay! This is it indeed. This is Romanovs. I'm John Fisher, and welcome to our audience tuning in. Now, I've been doing these shows since the beginning of COVID. I've been doing one a week, and when COVID kind of started to lift, I took some weeks off, and then I went back on. So this is my second live one with a live hybrid audience in New York City. I've done a couple in San Francisco, and I'm almost up to 70 shows now. So thank you so much for joining me, a new one each week. And as always, I ask my audience to help me with some sounds. Okay, so yeah. And the studio audience helps also. I mean, you people out there too. You have to help us too. Okay, so we're gonna test on this. So let's begin with some simple sounds. Okay, let's begin with some muskets, Revolutionary War muskets. Yeah, good group. And people at home, yeah, good. I heard them. I can't hear them, but I feel them. I feel them. You're contributing. Yep. Now let's do some Revolutionary War cannon. Yeah. Good. Give it volume. Don't be afraid. Yes, good. People at home, I heard you too. You can do this with your pet, with your lover. You can do it alone. Just have fun. So I've always had this identity crisis. I've always been searching for an identity, something to believe in, something to be, something for people to look at me and say, hey, that's what he is, right? And I always wanted an ancestor when I was a little kid. I wanted a famous ancestor. I wanted to look back into my past and see somebody who'd done something great, but nothing, my family didn't have people like that until one day I was talking to my mommy and she told me about a famous ancestor. Her maiden name was Chew, and she was from Michigan, but she was related to the Pennsylvania Chews. And the Pennsylvania Chews owned the Chew House in Germantown, which was the site of a famous Revolutionary War battle. I thought, oh my God, this is great. Yay, yay. I've got a famous ancestor, the Chew House. This is great. And what I loved about it was the Revolutionary War was the first war with good music. It actually had great music, right? Before that, it was just boring stuff. But the Revolutionary War, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do the music from the American Revolutionary War. Oh, this will be great. Okay. All right. So you two, you're going to be the British. Okay. So you get Rule Britannia. Okay. So we'll begin with you two. Bum 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 bum. Okay, now do it alone. Go ahead. Oh, oh my God. Yes, the Brits are great. The Brits are great. Now, the Americans, you get Yankee Doodle Dandy, okay? Okay, go for it. Do it alone. Go. Yes, yes. I love the gravelly voice. That's great. Yay! Okay, so let's have a battle of the music because that's what the war was all about, right? It was all about the music. Okay, so we'll begin with the British, and then the Americans will come in. Okay, go Brits. Yes, come in, Americans. Yes, yes. Oh my God. Yes, 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 yes. I'm saying, oh my God, I love it. Yay. Oh my God. It's like that scene in Casablanca when the Nazis start singing dun, 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 right? And then the French people all stand up and they have tears in their eyes and they're singing, alors the fond de la patrie. And the Nazi, he goes like, trying to get his men to sing louder. And then they sit down to their cocktails. They're so disgruntled. That was great, you guys. Okay, so hang on to that because I'm going to need that in a second. Okay, so now we're going to recreate the battle for the Chew House. Okay, so this is the Chew House. I made this prop myself. And I'm going to set it right here. And we're going to have the battle for the Chew House with the music, the warring music. Okay, so let's focus on the Chew House. Oh, there it is. It's perfect. Okay, so when I give you the cue, I want the warring music, and then I'm going to do the battle of the Chew House. Okay, go warring music. Go. That's great. That's great. That's it. The Battle of the Chew House. That was great, everybody. Oh my God. I can't believe we recreated that. Thank you, audience. You were great at home. Terrific. Now, I'll tell you something. This has all been in fun because really, you know, it wasn't music. It was muskets and cannon fire. Okay. So let's hear your muskets again. That's great. Very good. Very good. And your cannon fire. Okay, great. 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 Okay. So the battle for the Chew House. Now, this is a well-kept secret. And it's a really interesting one, I think. But George Washington, commander of the Continental Army, nobody knows this. He was a really bad general. He sucked. He was terrible. He lost every battle. Almost every single battle he lost. It was terrible. It was embarrassing. What was his theory? His theory was keep the army in being and it will wear down the British, right? So he was kind of the Taliban of the Revolutionary War. It's just like, wait 20 years and eventually the enemy will go away, right? That was Washington. He was so clever that way, but kind of depressing, right? Because he was always losing battles. Now, General Howe in 1777 invaded Pennsylvania, okay? And Howe kept advancing and Washington would catch up with him and then Howe would defeat Washington. Then Howe would advance, Washington catch up, defeat. Washington lost 3 battles. He lost 3 battles. He lost Philadelphia, the capital of the United States. How lame is that? He lost our capital, right? Well, now Howe is set up in the capital, right? And what he is going to do is send an advance force out to the Chew House in Germantown. He sends half his army out to Germantown, right? And Washington has this great idea. He's going to sneak up on Howe in the middle of the night in 3 columns, surround him, and defeat him because he's only got half of his army out. So Washington is finally going to win a battle against General Howe, okay? So let's do it. Let's do Washington's sneaking up on the British Army at the Chew House, okay? So now Washington had a lot of anxiety. He's very neurotic, and because he's such a bad general, but he wanted to make sure that he didn't kill any of his own men. So he made them all wear white things in their hats, okay? So that way he could identify them at night, right? So you can just wear, yes, oh my God, the mask, I love it, yes, innovation. Yeah. So that way when he snuck up, he'd be able to see who the enemy was. So 1777, he's advancing at night against the Chew House, worried that his men aren't going to be visible, right? So now he's going to advance. His men are creeping through the dark. Oh my God, there's somebody there. Who is that? Oh, it's a white piece of paper. Don't worry about it. Creeping through the dark. Oh my God, there's somebody there. What? Oh my God, no white paper. Okay, so this went on all night, identifying people, beating up people who weren't right. It was like endless, completely endless. It went on all night long. And in the morning, he hadn't gotten very close to the house. He was still a long way from the Chew House, right? So he started to charge. His men were charging towards the Chew House, racing towards it, running with their muskets, running for the Chew House. But there was fog. They couldn't see. They got lost in the fog. So here, spray me with the fog. Come forward and spray me with the fog. Right? Give it to me. Give it to me. Oh my God, I can't see. I can't keep spraying. I can't see. Where am I going? I'm lost in the fog. Now you think this is acting, right? Like fog isn't that bad, right? Well, you see, right? How do you see? You see, he ducked from the fog, right? You can spray me some more. That was so nasty. I mean, give it to me again. Just, oh my God, I can't see. I'm lost. Thank you, fog. That is delicious. So he's advancing in the Chew House. He's getting closer, but he doesn't get there all the way. And suddenly, the British are firing at him with their muskets out the windows. Give me the musket fire. Come on. This. So what does he do? He stops and he starts to cannonade the Chew House. Washington is firing his cannons at the Chew House. Boom, 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 but they don't penetrate the walls. The cannonballs don't go into the walls. They get stuck in the walls. They don't go through. They don't destroy the house. You can go to the Chew House today and see cannonballs stuck in the walls. It's amazing. So what is he going to do? He's got to get into those rooms with the British firing guns. He's got to get inside, right? He's got to come around from the back. So he sends his men behind the Chew House to come in from the back of the Chew House. Now I'm going to charge through this door, okay? I'm the Americans. I want you all to shoot me, okay? You're the Brits, you're there, okay? I want you all to shoot me, okay? So here we go, okay? Give me liberty or finish me off. Okay, all right, yeah, all right. I feel like you were waiting for me, right? It wasn't very realistic, right? So could you put your focus towards the windows where you're shooting your gun and be a little surprised that I'm coming through, right? Let's make it as real as possible. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Oh, no, better. Oh, no. Thank you, better. That was better. Very okay. Let's go a step further. In acting, we have activities. Activities make things real. So why don't you guys be shooting out that window and having a conversation? I want you to talk about something. What can you talk about? Yeah, British things. Yeah, talk about what? Brexit. Talk about Brexit. Total anachronism, but I'm sure they hated everybody back then anyway. Okay, talk about Brexit. Shoot out the window and let me surprise you even more. But remember to shoot me. Ah! No, no, no. That was great. That was so authentic. Good work, everybody. Love it. Good work. I love it. Now, one of the people who charged into the room was a man named John Lawrence. And John Lawrence actually was very famous. He was one of Alexander Hamilton's lovers. He was a lover of Alexander Hamilton. Yeah. That's not in the musical. You don't see that in the musical, right? That musical, which is great, but it is so butch, that musical, right? It's all about the ladies and stuff. You don't see Hamilton having dates with John Lawrence, right? No. Yeah, because that was excised from the musical. Anyway, the battle was a defeat, obviously, because it was a Washington battle, right? He lost it. Yeah, that's what he always did. He lost battles. And the Americans, after losing that battle, there's 4 battles in a row, they retreated to Valley Forge for the winter of 77, 78, so that they could starve and freeze to death, which is, I guess, what they wanted to do. And so it was a pretty miserable winter. But I was part of the Jews. I found myself Benjamin Jew, his house. I had an ancestor. I was so happy. And I was reveling in this, that I was a Revolutionary War ancestor, you know? But was he? I mean, was he really a patriot, Benjamin Chew, or did he just own the house? I had to find out. So I went to the library and I got some books and I looked at the books and I found out he was thrown in jail by the patriots because they thought he was a loyalist. He wasn't a patriot. He was loyal to the British. What? I was so depressed. I didn't want to be related to some traitor. What a weirdo. Oh God. Here's some advice. This is very good practical advice. Okay. Never, never, never go to the library, right? And don't read books. They're full of too much information, right? They're so disillusioning. You know the expression, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Yeah. A lot of knowledge is worse. Oh, I was so bummed. I lost my one claim to fame. Benjamin Chew turned out to be a loyalist. I was so depressed. So I looked to my father, who grew up in Alameda. I thought he might have a famous relative, but if you know Alameda, it's like nobody came from Alameda. Nothing ever happened in Alameda. It's like, I mean, Alameda is like, you know, it's this island in the bay and it's really close to San Francisco, but it takes like forever to get to San Francisco because it's like got bridges and tunnels and nobody knows why. And it's really boring. It's like a super boring, ugly suburb. What's the New York equivalent? Something. Okay, great. Staten Island. Thank you. Yes, yeah, perfect because it's an island. Yes, I love it. Yeah, yeah. And people are always saying take the ferry to Staten Island. Why? Why? They say it's free. Of course it's free. Nobody would go there, right? Yes. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Alameda is the Staten Island of the Bay Area. So I was so depressed. Anyway, I went off to college. I decided, okay, well, I'm going to stop looking for relatives, ancestors. I'm just going to be like a little gay drama boy, right? I'll just be like I will do musicals and comedies, right? I'll just have fun in college. I ended up going to the butchest drama department in the country. It was so butch. I couldn't believe it. They never did musicals. Never, never. They would not do musicals, right? They would have done Hamilton if it had existed, because Hamilton is so butch. That they would have done. But there were no butch musicals. They wouldn't do comedies. They only did shows by straight playwrights who were drug addicts or alcoholics, right? That's all they ever did. Sam Shepard, Eugene O'Neill, Samuel Beckett, Brendan Behan. And I went to him, I said, you know, could we do some, some Tennessee Williams? I mean, he took drugs. He was an alcoholic. They said, no, he took the wrong drugs. He took those gay drugs. He drank those gay cocktails. No, he's wrong. He's wrong. It's like, oh, forget it. So I decided, well, I'll just be an independent gay boy, right? I'll just be a gay boy, a freelance gay boy. Oh, as the French would say, a gay boy sans portefeuille. And that was okay. I mean, fortunately, in the dorms, I discovered Michael, and he became my boyfriend, and we've been together ever since. So it was fine. It worked out great. I found somebody in the dorms, and I was this independent gay boy because the drama department could not provide. And it was great, but then something amazing happened. I met his sister. His sister had married At the time, she was just a girlfriend of, but she would eventually marry a Romanov, a real live Romanov, a descendant of the Tsar. I couldn't believe it. And when I first met him, I went up to him and I was like so into it. I said, "Can I touch you? Can I touch you? Will you bleed if I touch you? Will you bleed if I touch you?" Now, why did I ask that question? Will you bleed if I touch you? He's Romanov. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Romanovs were hemophiliacs, right? Right, their blood didn't clot. And I was like, I thought it was so funny. He was like, "What are you doing? I met you." But that their blood couldn't clot. I was like, "This is great. Oh my God." And then suddenly I had it because Michael and I ended up getting married, or as married as gay guys could. And they got married. And suddenly I had a Romanov relative in my family. I had a great ancestor without even trying, without even looking. And I immediately stopped calling them my in-laws, right? Because we couldn't get married. We were marriage outlaws. So I thought, well, that's dumb. I'm not going to call them in-laws. They're just going to be my brother and my sister, the Romanovs. And I started calling myself Ivan Romanov Fischer. Yes, that's John. Ivan. I was so happy. I'd done it without even trying. Ignoring the problem had solved the problem, but there's still a problem. Because, of course, the Romanovs are bad guys, right? The Tsar's a bad guy, right? We're supposed to hate the Tsar. Tsar Nicholas II, who got bumped off by the commies, because we're a democracy, right? We're supposed to believe in like socialism, maybe even communism, right? That's what we're always accused of. We're supposed to hate the Tsar, right? Right? The last Tsar. Yeah, but that's kind of hypocritical of us. Because the Tsar won the First World War for us. He did. It was a huge war. We could never have beaten the Germans on our own, not with the French and the British. No way. It's the Russians who did half the fighting. They did. And that war, oh my God, that war had great music too. Oh my God, that war had let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do the music from the First World War. Oh, we'll do the musical version of the First World War. Okay, great. Okay, so you're going to be Russia. The Tsar had a horrible national anthem. We'll come back to you. You're going to be France and America and England. We'll just concentrate on France. You have the Marseillaise. Lovely, great. You two guys are Germany, right? You have dun 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 to it. Yes, right. It sounds really evil to do that, but it's not, because it's actually a Christian hymn. And if you go to like the Episcopal Church, they actually sing that in church. It's really weird, but it's all about God and Mary and Jesus and that stuff. So it's okay. It's okay. Oh my God, you're the Czars. He had this horrible. It was terrible. Is boom, boom, boom. Just do that. Yeah. Okay. Now everybody do their things. Do their things. Do the war. Here we go. Yay! Yes, that was great, you guys. Yay. This is why Russia lost. They had the horrible music. It was so terrible. It really, really sucked. The Tsar had a very, very tough reign. When he came to power, he was youngish, and he threw a big party at the Winter Palace that his mother was at. Everybody ate, rich food and stuff like that. But there was also a party thrown for the people because the peasants love the Tsar. They adore the Tsar, unquestionably. And the big part of the party was the prizes that they would get, right? What prizes would they get at the party? And there were all these trinkets, like cups with the Tsar's name on them, and food and drink, right? But the nobles had not ordered enough prizes, right? It's like the nobles had ordered like 2 Reese's for everybody, right? And they put them out there, and the people went for the Reese's, right? But there were 100,000 of them, right? So it's like if you guys all go for the Reese's, somebody would get hurt, right? Because there's only 2. You wouldn't get enough. And this is what happened at the big party for the peasants. 100,000 of them went running for the Reese's. There was a stampede. 1,369 trampled, killed, and thousands more hurt. Tsar Nicholas said, "I must go to my people. I must go to the peasants. I must be with them." But his mother, the Dowager Empress, said, "No, do not. A czar never apologizes. You must stay here. So he didn't go. And the people thought he didn't care. They thought he was cold. He listened to his mommy. We're supposed to listen to our mommy, but he shouldn't have. A few years later, there was a war with Japan. It was terrible. The people were starving because the food was all going to the army. They protested, and the soldiers went out and shot people. It was a peaceful protest. Again, he followed bad advice. The army gave him bad advice. And finally, the First World War. So here we have our war, okay? So the Germans, the Russians, the Americans, the British, and the French, right? In this war, with the Germans in the middle, everybody fighting the Germans, right? The Americans, the British, and the French. The British lost 1.3 million soldiers. The French lost 2 million. The Americans lost 117,000. So 3 million and change. The Russians, fighting on the Eastern Front, the Tsar's army, lost 3 million and change itself. It bled itself winning that war for us, right? What also happened was starvation. All of the food was being sent to the front. It was all going to the front. Everything was going to the front. Nothing was being kept behind for the people. The trains weren't working. The railroads weren't efficient enough. And the people were starving to death. It was horrifying. So in 1917, the communists took control and threw the Tsar out. And I think part of the reason they won was they had the best music. They had really great music, the communists. They had the Internationale, right? Right? This wonderful piece of music. So I'll let you be the Russians and I'll be the communists, right? Because they had the best music. So I want you all to go dun, dun, dun. Go ahead. Dun 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 dun. The International is the best piece of music, and I think that had something to do with them winning the revolution against the Tsar. So he was deposed. His family, his wife, the Tsarina, his little boy, the hemophiliac, Tsarevich Alexei, 12 years old, and his 4 daughters, Tatiana, Olga, Maria, and Anastasia, went into captivity. They were deposed. The best book about all this is Robert K. Massey's Nicholas and Alexandra. And in this book, it's so moving because Nicholas really did want to help his people. He loved his people, but he was weak and he wanted to help everybody and he couldn't make choices and he wanted to help the peasants and the middle class and the nobles and the army and his family. And he failed everybody because he wasn't quick enough. And a real liability was his wife, the Empress Alexandra, the Tsarina Alexandra. Now, her big problem was she came from Germany, right? She'd been raised in Germany and she'd grown up with her aunt, who was Queen Victoria, who taught her English. So she had the 2 worst accents, German and English, right? And if you ever want a villain, get somebody who's like German or English, right? Right? Hollywood? That's how these people make all this money, these German English actors, right? We can look at Star Wars, okay? Star Wars, the villains are all the Imperial people, they're all English, right? Except for James Earl Jones, who's got that big German helmet, and he's always like barking, thinks like people, he sounds like a German. So they got this empress who was very cold, and everything she said was either in a German accent or an English accent. It was a problem. The Russians hated her, right? She was very icy, and all she really cared about was her little boy, the hemophiliac. It was sad. She wanted to protect him. She wanted him to get better. See, now being a Romanov, being Ivan Romanov Fischer really appealed to my sense of history and to my sense of drama. I love drama, right? And the Romanovs were so dramatic, right? They were such weirdos. I mean, they were so strange. You see, Alexandra, when she came from Germany, she was a Protestant, and she thought Protestantism was really, really boring. It's too dry. I hate it. It's too dry, she would say, or it's too dry. She didn't like Protestantism, so she completely embraced Russian Orthodoxy. She loved everything about it. She loved all that creepy, dark music and the chanting. Chant for me. That's good. That's good. And it's really dark services in those little chapels, right? She loved those. She loved the dark services because, it was strange. She could really relate to the strangeness of the music and to all the strangeness inside the chapel. She was obsessed with this stuff, right? And the incense would burn. Feel the incense, smell it. Yes, it would make you high. That incense in those dark chambers, right? And then she became obsessed, completely obsessed with Rasputin. Rasputin. Rasputin was a very weird Russian monk. I am Rasputin. I am a weird monk. I'm not a real monk. I'm not official. I am a self-proclaimed mystic, but I have powers. I can help the Tsarevich, the little boy. I can cure him. And he went to the little boy who was in pain, the little hemophiliac. He was bleeding internally in the knee. His blood wouldn't clot. He was just a little boy. And Rasputin, do you feel better? Yes, say yes. Yeah, yeah. He cured him. Do you feel better? Oh, you see, Rasputin had the magical powers. He could cure the little boy. You know, cultures that don't believe in science, they're just weird, right? I'm so glad that hasn't happened here in this country, because it seems so bizarre when you read about it. But here's the thing, there was an explanation for all this. And that was maybe just by getting rid of the doctors, the officials, the little boy was able to calm down and cure himself. Maybe the doctors were just worrying him so much he couldn't relax. And also the doctors were giving the little boy aspirin. And in 1952, they found out that aspirin prevents blood from clotting. So just by getting rid of the doctors, Rasputin was solving the little boy's hemophilia. He was curing it. Weird. He's a faith healer. And I'm not like an anti-vax or anything. I don't know. It sounds sort of accidental, but he did have a power about him. And the problem was that he was incredibly influential. He was incredibly influential with the Empress. And the Empress passed on his influence to the Tsar, and that really pissed people off. And his advice was not bad. He was always telling the Empress, you must get the railroad working. You must get the railroad to work. It's not working. You must get the trains moving, transporting food to the people. He had good advice. Also, he was a peasant, so he believed in the people, and he knew that the people loved the Tsar. And he was trying to bring peasants into the ministry. He was trying to get the peasants in. He was trying to get his friends who used to go out drinking, having sex with, these wild orgies. He was really into the sex and the orgies and stuff. He was trying to get them into the ministry, and that really pissed off the nobility. They didn't like him at all. So a prince named Yusupov invited him to a party. The prince handed him some poisoned cakes. Hand me a poisoned cake. Spasibo. This cake is good. Good cake. It didn't kill him. Somebody else handed him some poisoned wine. Hand me some poisoned wine. Spasibo. This wine is good. It didn't kill him. The arsenic didn't kill him. So he told somebody, I'm about to go. Thank you for the party. And suddenly Prince Yusupov said, shoot him, shoot him. So somebody shot Rasputin, shoot me 3 times. But he didn't die. So they had somebody stab him, stab me. And then they kicked him into the river, kicked me into the river. Next morning, they found his body. The police did an autopsy. What did he die of? He died of drowning. The poison hadn't worked. The shooting hadn't worked. The stabbing hadn't worked. He drowned. That's what the autopsy delivered. And I could, the one funny thing is I could believe in all these people, all these weird people. I could believe in them because you know what? The theater is full of weird people, totally strange people, but you have faith in them, right? Because they have talent, they have abilities. So you give them your faith, right? And they deliver. I'm a weird person. And people, they trust me, they do. And I could relate to the drugging experience because theater is sort of a drug too. Rehearsals, performances, it can be, a really heady experience. You sort of lose yourself. It's like going to one of those ceremonies in the Russian Orthodox Church. It can be very, very strange. But what I could not relate to was the tragedy of the murders, the killing of the family. I could not get my brain around that. No. I romanticized their deaths. I did that a lot because I liked movies, and movies always made things seem very romantic and dramatic and kind of interesting and fun. But to read about it, to read books about it, is horrifying. The best books on the subject of the death of the Romanovs are Robert K. Massey's Romanovs, The Final Chapter, Robert Service's The Last of the Tsars, and an incredible book by Helen Rappaport about the last days of the Tsars. It is amazing what happens in these stories. The Russians seized the Romanovs in February 1917. There was a revolution. A provisional government was set up. And the provisional government seized the Romanovs and put them into prison. And then in October, there was a communist revolution to take power from the provisional government, and they got the Romanovs and held on to them. Now, here's a bit of advice. This is useful advice. This is practical advice. You can use this. If you're in power, if you're like an emperor, if that ever happens to you, and you get deposed, take off. Leave, go. Get the hell out. And if they say, no, you can't, say, well, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm just going to stop. And then leave. Run. It is so stupid. Go anywhere. Go to the south of France. That's where dictators go, right? They hang out on the beach, right? Go someplace awful. Go to LA. Get a job at Starbucks. It's better than getting murdered by these weirdos, right? Right. Okay. Let's do a test. Okay. You're like an emperor. Okay. And the second I say you're deposed, I want you to run to the door. Okay. You're deposed. Oh my God. Look at that. That's good one. Good one. You're deposed. Yeah. Oh my God. This is yes. Good. Yes. Go. Go. Yes. Just go. Get out. No. Yeah. Bye. Bye. Yeah. I mean, this is a smart man. Smart man. Just leave your jacket. Leave your umbrella. It doesn't matter. That's junk. Right? I mean, think about it. Louis the 16th and Marie Antoinette, right? Welcome back. You're dead. Louis the 16th and Marie Antoinette. Charles the First, Ceausescu, Gaddafi, right? Hussein. They stuck around. Don't stick around. Take off. They were made prisoners, first at Tsarskoye Selo, which is this beautiful, it's like Versailles, this beautiful palace just outside of St. Petersburg. It's blue and it's white and it's gold. It is an amazing place to imprison people, right? It is just weird. And they were there, and I can't imagine what they thought this fate was going to be. I can't imagine what they were thinking. They should have done anything they could to get out. They were prisoners of the communists. Then they were moved to a place called Ekaterinburg, okay, in Siberia. And a white army was approaching. So the Reds had them. A white army of liberation was approaching, coming to get them, right? And one night in 1917, they were woken in the middle of the night. They were told to get dressed. They weren't suspicious. The Tsar, the Tsarina, Prince Alexei, the four daughters, the princesses, they weren't suspicious, unsuspecting. They're told to get dressed. Nobody said where they were going. They were just being moved. They said, you're not going to be safe. A war is coming, so we're going to move you. So they got dressed, very trusting, and they went down into a basement underground, a little room with wallpaper, very odd little room. And the Prince Alexei was carried by his father. He was so weak, the little 12-year-old boy with hemophilia. He couldn't even walk. And the Empress Alexandra asked for chairs, right? She said, I want to sit. And so my boy needs to sit also. So they brought them chairs. And then the head Soviet walked in and he took out a proclamation. He said, "It is proclaimed by the regional Soviet that you are to be executed." The Tsar said, "What? Read that again." They didn't read it again. Then 12 soldiers followed him and pointed their guns at the Tsar and his family. Now, there was the Tsar, the Tsarina, Prince Alexei, the 4 daughters, 3 servants, and a doctor who attended to him. There were 12 of them, right? And there were 12 soldiers. So you're the soldiers, right? So point your guns at me. Point your guns at me, right? Okay. So good. So to be humane, yes, good. Point guns. Point guns. To be humane, they'd all been assigned one person to shoot. So spread your guns out. You're shooting at 12 different people, right? Good. Excellent. Right. Okay. So to be humane, everybody was going to die at once. Okay. So the commies were being nice. Okay. The order was given to shoot. All the soldiers wanted to kill the Tsar, so they all turned their guns on Nicholas II and shot him. Shoot me. He fell to the ground dead, instantly dead. They then turned their guns on the Tsarina, Alexandra. Shoot me. Then they turned their guns on the little boy, the Prince Alexei. Shoot me. At this point, panic had struck. Everybody knew what was happening. It was no longer a mystery. They were shooting them. And now the daughters started running about the little room, terrified. And the soldiers were shooting their guns at everybody. And the guns were going off and there was smoke and nobody could see. It was dark already, but with the smoke was impossible. And anybody who knows about small arms will tell you that they can be incredibly inaccurate. People who own guns, half the time they shoot their own kids. They shoot walls, they shoot pets. It's insane. And that was definitely what's going on here. They were hitting no targets. Nobody could get out of the room, but the soldiers kept firing. They kept firing at the daughters, at the servant, at the doctor who had attended to them, shooting at all of them. And the weirdest things started happening because they were firing at the daughters. And the daughters were being hit by bullets, and the bullets were bouncing off their waists. They were not penetrating their bodies. Shoot me, shoot me. Go on, give it to me, give it to me. The bullets were not going in. They weren't penetrating. And finally, they figured out they had to shoot the daughters in the breasts and the face. Shoot me in the breast, shoot me in the face. Finally, they killed all the daughters. It took 11 minutes. The Tsar had died immediately. The girls took 11 minutes, but they weren't quite dead. So the soldiers came up and with the butt of their guns, they smashed their faces. And then with the heel of their boots, they crushed their skulls repeatedly to make sure they were dead. Mutilated the bodies. Unbelievable. The inhumanity, the cruelty. A melee, chaos. But why hadn't the bullets penetrated? Because the daughters had sewn the Romanov jewels into their corsets, into their undergarments, and the bullets were bouncing off of diamonds and pearls. They couldn't kill them, so they had to go for the breast and the face. Finally, there were 11 dead on the floor. They killed all of them. It took forever. They now loaded the bodies onto carts, dragged them out and onto a cart. And they took the bodies out into the forest in the middle of the night. They didn't tell anybody. They didn't want anybody to know that they killed all these people. They didn't want the communists to know. They didn't want the whites to know. They didn't want anybody to know. So they took them out in the middle of the night to bury the bodies. And now something which would have made it all that much more horrifying happened. A bunch of drunken soldiers showed up and said, "Where's the Tsar? We've come to kill the Tsar." They told him the Tsar was dead. We wanted to kill him. We're the daughters. We want to kill them, but first. So in a way, it was a mercy because another group was coming to kill him. And they would have raped them first. The head Soviet said, "Help us with the body. Come on, help us bury them." They started helping them bury them. But 2 witnesses said that the soldiers removing the Empress Alexandra from the cart, laid her out on the ground and sexually violated her dead body. They were then buried. They were later exhumed, set on fire, buried again, Acid was thrown on them. They were buried like 3 or 4 times. They were finally thrown down a mine shaft. Then they went back later and reburied them. They kept crushing the skulls to make sure they were dead. And what'd they get? What'd the communists get? They got Russia. The Tsar was dead. They got a whole new Russia, a communist Russia. And I gotta say, there's a lot about the early communist government that I don't want to say I admire, but I respect. One law that was immediately taken off the books was the law against homosexuality, a czarist law. It was no longer illegal to be a homosexual. It was no longer illegal to be a lesbian. All the laws about cross-dressing, women can't dress as men, men can't dress as women, those were taken off the books. The early communists were amazing, but it didn't stick because they didn't have enough money. The country was going broke, and so they got Stalin. And Stalin was not a good communist. He was a dictator. He was another czar. He was worse than the czar. He starved to death 3 million Ukrainians because they wouldn't obey him. And Russia has had Stalin, Putin. They've just had a bunch of czars, right? So they killed Nicholas II brutally, and they ended up with czars. How I respond to history, it was always so romantically, and it's because I've given up on books and all I want to do is watch movies. They romanticized the whole thing, even death, the movies. They made it so exciting. And why was I so desperate for an identity, right? Why was I always racing to find an ancestor or a story I could connect to, right? Because we all want an identity, right? That's what we want. We want to identify. That's what this place is about. The LGBTQ center, right, is about identity. It's about saying, I'm this thing. I get to decide who I am. And why? Why do we want to be recognized? I don't know. Our fathers didn't love us enough. Daddy didn't love us enough, right? So we need the adulation of the world, right? And that's showbiz, right? That's a line from Chicago, right? Yeah. But it was interesting. Probably the greatest identity story of the 20th century is the Romanov story of the Princess Anastasia, right? Remember that story? Her name was Anna Anderson. And she claimed that she had clawed her way out of the grave of the Romanovs, that she was the Princess Anastasia. She had survived. And then she clawed her way across Siberia. She got to Berlin. She attempted suicide. They rescued her and she said, I am the Princess Anastasia. And all she wanted was an identity. And she spent her entire life chasing an identity. She wanted people to accept her as the Princess Anastasia, the heir to the Romanovs. She was so eager for it, and many people didn't believe her. They thought she was a hoax, but many others did, thousands. And she convinced all kinds of people that she was, in fact, the Princess Anastasia. And the world became obsessed with her story. They made a movie about it. They made a play. Then it became a Broadway play. It came from France. Then they made a huge Hollywood movie with Ingrid Bergman and Yul Brynner with that beautiful bald head, which he used to oil, and it had really precise diction. Anyway, it's a great movie. And then they made a musical about it in the 60s, and another musical cartoon, and then a musical recently. And there have been ballets and operas. People are obsessed with Anastasia. Amy Irving played her in a completely fallacious TV series that had nothing to do with the truth. But people are obsessed. They love it. And when finally the movie came out with Ingrid Bergman, people wanted to meet Anna Anderson. She became famous in her own right, even beyond being Anastasia. Even as a hoax, she became famous. But people were disappointed that she didn't look like Ingrid Bergman. And she ran her whole life pursuing this. She was desperate. But why? Because she was born a Polish peasant. She was born on a farm. That's why she wanted to change her identity. She felt cornered by her life. She wanted opportunity. She wanted to go places. She read books, and they filled her with fantasies. She wanted to have a life somewhere else, and a whole world magically opened up in front of her when she said she was Anastasia. People started to believe. Poor people took her in. She didn't have to work. Middle-class people, nobles, royalty. The Princess Xenia, cousin of the Tsar, had her living with her out on Long Island for 2 years. She lived in Germany through World War II. People took care of her. Finally, a man 20 years her junior married her, and she moved in with him here in New York, and he had a lot of money. And she lived without ever working again. simply because people wanted to believe. They wanted to believe her identity. And what did she love most in the world? Cats. She loved cats, not the musical, real cats. She lived with 60, 100 cats. You know, every house she was in, she took in stray cats, right? She became like Grey Gardens, like the cat lady, right? All these cats, meow for me, meow. Yes, that's good with cats. Now shit all over the place. Just shit everywhere, right? Yeah, great. All right, great. Yeah, just shit, 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 shit. Okay, that's good with cats. But she had an incredible life. And I'm always thinking about this identity thing. Why? Always identity. You know, my brother, Andrew, Prince Andrew, he doesn't care about any of this. He just doesn't. You can ask him about it. He goes to St. Petersburg every time they find another body and identify it. They go there and they bury the body. And Putin, of course, is suspicious. He thinks they want to come back. And, you know, I mean, I don't know why they don't. I don't know why they don't say, look, we want our property back. Give us back Russia, please. Right? But they're very polite. He's not all wrapped up in his identity. And I think part of it might be fear. Because the Romanovs got so much attention and made people so bitter. There was another Romanov family, some aunts and uncles of the Tsar. And after the Tsar's family was killed, they too were grabbed, seized by the communists, and they were thrown into a well, a very deep well. They fell all the way down to the well, crashing sounds. Did they die? No. Next day, peasants came by and they heard them down there praying. So the communists came back and they threw grenades into the well. Explosions. The peasants reported that they were still down there singing hymns. Ancestors. Identity. Sometimes it comes with responsibilities. I think of people identifying themselves and getting beaten in this country by strangers. You attract too much attention, people get upset. Anna Anderson, people hated her. Is it worth it? I don't know. Here's a bit of advice. Read books. Do read books. I didn't mean what I said about the library. Read the books. Because the books unlock the story and they tell the truth. And they de-romanticize things and they tell you about the responsibilities of history, of murder, of death. And there are no villains in this story. The communists were trying something, the Tsar was trying something, the United States has always been trying something. There are no villains in this story. But identity is an ambition. And ambition puts you high. And sometimes you can fall. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm John Fisher, and this has been Romanov. Yay! Thank you so much to my studio audience. You guys were wonderful, shooting guns, doing explosions. That was great. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. We'll be back in the future. This was, in fact, my 70th show. So, yay. And I will continue until I guess this pandemic actually does die. I thought this summer was all over and I stopped at 62. And then there's the Delta Force and the alpha beta, and it just goes on and on. Apparently, America hasn't had one yet. We haven't created one. They've all come from other countries, right? Yeah, we haven't. I mean, and I think people are like feeling competitive about that, right? You know, so I do hope it passes. But it's been great to be here with a hybrid audience, live in New York City and on Zoom and Facebook Live. And if you guys, do you guys know the center, the art in the center? It's incredible. Okay. Bye, audience. Bye. Okay, we can take you with us. Yeah, we'll just take you with us. We'll see if this works. There's some incredible art I can show you really quick before you have to split. Every week, I discover more stuff in here. So, good. So let's go on a little field trip, okay? We're gonna take you on a field trip, audience. So last week I did a show about Keith Haring, and this is his prop shop, and he created art for the people. So he wanted people to be able to own his art. He didn't want art to be for rich people. He wanted anybody to be able to buy his art. So you could buy T-shirts, purses, buttons, and they were cheap, right? And it was here for years, and people were very cynical about it. They said he was too commercial, but he said, no, I'm creating art for the people. I discovered this incredible collage. It's like a totally naughty collage. And if you go up here and look through the window, you'll see naked people. Yeah, do you see it? Right? Isn't that cool? Yeah. And the whole building has been restored, right? Right. But this one little corner of it has been left unrestored, right? You can't actually go in there because the art is very delicate, right? And it just goes. What did they think this was? I think this was 89. This is mainly. Yeah, right. To celebrate 20 years of Stonewall, right? And then we'll go downstairs and I'll show you two more things. Come with me. So one of my favorite artists is from San Francisco. His name is Martin Wong. And he came to New York and became a media artist. And so he did a brick hard penis. I know, isn't that great? And I was talking about this last week. He said he wanted to do a work of art that he was sure his mother would never see, right? And he figured she'd never come into the emergency stairwell at the LGBTQ center, right? And if you see, his stuff is now collected in MoMA and the Metropolitan Museum, so he's become like a really big deal. Here's a pink triangle, also from the 80s. And then I'm sure you've heard of this, you've probably even seen it, is this is a Keith Haring masterpiece, right? Yeah, this is a working bathroom, right? Yeah, it's not been all they did, and that's all you did. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's called Once Upon a Time. It's from '89, and it's Once Upon a Time when sex was safe. Back when sex was safe. And there's a picture of him in here painting it, and he died, within a year of AIDS. So anyway, the center here is just amazing. There's so much great stuff here. There's art all over this place. So anyway, so I did a whole show last week about Keith Haring and what cool stuff he did. Maybe, yeah, someday. Let's see. And that.